here are today's top news.
The White House unveils Truth GPT, an AI that rewrites all social media posts globally.
In today's news, we're going to tell you a bunch of lies to incite fear and outrage. Stay tuned.
This is Kara Miles reporting live from Braxton County, where
from downtown Miami. Angela Carter here.
This is Dana Brooks. Aaron Matsuda live from Liberty Harbor.
This is Charlotte Reed reporting live from Clearwater Beach,
where an
unidentified.
What a deep search. Just kidding.
I'm not real. Just kidding. I'm not real.
Hi, I'm Bot, your friendly office assistant. You appear to be watching fake AI-generated journalism. Would you like to only listen to humans? Cool! Here are some humans to explain how artificial intelligence is affecting journalism.
My name is John Barron, and I'm the editor and co-founder of the West Leeds Dispatch. We actively encourage our community reporters not to use AI wherever possible. I think sometimes it's inevitable, but in terms of the news gathering process, and you might not necessarily realise that you're using it, as a policy we try to discourage using AI, and we certainly don't use AI to generate any of our content directly. Google referrals have decreased in recent times. Again, that's partly because Google has deprioritised news to a certain degree, but it's also because Google's now including AI summaries, and a lot of people aren't interested in clicking on the source. The AI is summarising our stories. We're not getting any benefit from that, and that's a major issue for us moving forward.
Now let's hear from Alan Rusbridger, editor of Prospect magazine.
The journalism of the future will be a combination of people and machines. Journalists ought to be, trained in verification tools and want to be able to tell what's fake and what's real, and that should be a valuable part of journalism, to try and help people from being deceived. The problem is the sheer scale of what's going on at the moment, and whether it's realistic to expect journalism, which is a diminished activity in terms of its economic and general resourcing, to do that. I mean, I think there's a broader societal need for young people. I would start very young to be taught how to inoculate themselves. So they should be given digital skills and critical training, so that by the time they're 15, 16 and are widely exposed to digital media, that they can make some judgments, because journalism is never going to be up to the task of catching up with even a fraction of the disinformation that will be created by AI.
My name is Harriet Williamson. I'm a commissioning editor and a reporter at Novara Media. I think AI is a huge threat to journalism. I'm personally not a fan. I think that if it's sold unscrupulously to the owners of media organisations, some of them might well think, oh, well, in terms of the news churn, if we're regurgitating stories that have been written elsewhere, why not use AI? And that will put a lot of reporters and editors out of business, out of their jobs. And we know that AI is actually the biggest threat to, in terms of employment, entry-level roles, so people in white-collar entry-level roles. And it is hard enough to get into journalism as a young person, particularly somebody who doesn't have family in London or doesn't have any family connections within the industry, which was a bit of a barrier for me getting started as well. AI is going to be really bad for those people if it gets adopted en masse in journalism. I don't want an AI summary on Google, quite frankly, and I don't want it on WhatsApp, and I don't want Instagram to be like, here, /imagine, and AI will dream something up for you. No, thank you. It was called using your brain, and you should do it. My favourite tweets at the moment are those ones that are like, oh, you asked ChatGPT. Well, I asked Gandalf, and he said that you should read a book. I think that we need to be really realistic about the amount of water and energy and planetary resources that AI is actually using, and ask ourselves whether, writing an article or asking it to tell you your horoscope or whether you're compatible with this person or plan your wedding for you or whatever, whether those things are actually a good use of planetary resources. It makes me really sad that tech gets created and it does the things that bring human beings real joy, things like writing and painting and making music, and I also think that AI therapy is incredibly dangerous. Why can't we make a tool that like picks microplastics out of the ocean or does jobs that are dangerous and that people, you know, risk their lives doing and or are already dirty or already bad for people? Like, why can't we make a tool that does that? AI, hate it. Genuinely, I'm so over it. Do you remember those doll things where people were like making themselves as a doll? Stop it.
Here's a summary of what you've just heard. Search engines are scraping news pages and summarising them in overviews. This is affecting even hyperlocal papers like West Leeds Dispatch. Alan Rusbridger thinks that journalists must be trained in verification tools to combat AI-generated content. And he thinks that media literacy classes must be taught in schools. And Harriet Williamson thinks that AI is stopping creativity and even thinking. She said that AI is bad for the environment and will delete many jobs. Now, here is Nick Newman from the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism.
So the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism is part of Oxford University. So we're an academic institution and our mission is to bridge academia and industry. And one of the ways we do that is through research. I do two key things at the institute. So one is that I am the lead author of the Reuters Institute Digital News Report, which has been going since 2012 and is the world's largest ongoing study of news consumption. And then with 48 markets. And then the other thing I do is an annual report, which is more industry-based on sort of future trends, looking at the intersection of technology and journalism. The digital news report, so that's less about trends, it's more about what's actually happening. So this is based on a survey of around 100,000 people across 48 markets, and we asked them a series of questions around their news consumption, around their attitudes to news, and about some of the sort of key issues in the industry, including the future of artificial intelligence and how that's going to impact the news. Most media companies are now embracing AI to make them more efficient, essentially, to automate things that previously journalists were doing, but they're not really journalistic work. So, you know, the classic example is you have an interview, you want to transcribe it, and that would take, you know, half a day to transcribe it. And now you don't need to do that because that's instantly done by the AI. Or different kinds of research increasingly, but also, you know, news gathering, finding new stories through big data, which is a very time-consuming manual task. But if you can speed that up with different kinds of AI, that could actually create better journalism and fresher stories and hold power to account. So that's kind of one side of it, and media companies are trying to do this responsibly, and they're also trying to use AI to make their content more relevant, to deal with the relevance problem. So instead of a one-size-fits-all website, can they use AI to version it in ways that work better for young people, for example, turning a text story into some audio automatically or into a video Instagram Reels. Then on the access side, I think this is going to be the biggest impact, is what's going to happen as media companies get challenged by AI that can produce stories that is sucking up the content that you're producing and repurposing it in a way that works with huge convenience for audiences, but the person who's produced it, the media company that's produced it, isn't getting any financial reward for that. So, for example, AI overviews from Google, they're taking content that they're scraping and then returning that as effectively a news story. So why would you click on to the website itself? How does that website get attribution? And this is the really big fear of the media industry right now is, you know, how do you get new providers? How are you going to get paid for the content if more and more people access content via AI chatbots? You know, the move to print is not a result of just Google. It's just that people prefer to access news digitally because it's more convenient. But in that environment, the the platforms, whether it's Google or Meta, have taken a lot of the advertising revenue just because it's so much easier for advertisers to find audiences across, multiple through social networks where they have all the data about audiences and they have huge numbers of people that they can reach. So even the largest individual publisher can't compete with that on the advertising side. Now we're into a world where it may be, we don't know yet, it may be that AI chatbots become a really key source of accessing information. So instead of going to a news site, you basically just ask the AI chatbot what's happening in Syria today, and it will bring you back a story, maybe with some citations, but those click-throughs are going to be a lot less. So there'll be a lot less advertising revenue or ability to monetize that audience on a news website. So this is really raising fundamental questions about the business model going forward. So if advertising becomes less valuable, obviously, subscription is something that publishers are going for. Can you build direct relationships? And then probably licensing income is going to be very important. So it may be that the AI chatbots do deals with some of the biggest companies, and that becomes a substantial revenue stream. So they essentially allow them to scrape the content and repurpose it for money. And that's a key way in which I think the media ecosystem is changing. So, the big fear is that will only benefit big news providers, and smaller providers, local providers will get very little. So this is the big challenge about how do we protect the whole media ecosystem rather than just a few big companies.
So I'm Laura Webster. I'm the editor of The National and Sunday National. I'm really passionate about Scottish independence, really passionate about progressive issues, and it's such a privilege to get to be editing a title that reflects all of those things. Even before generative AI was really a thing, we already had a massive problem with disinformation and worry about how it's used in effect with the likes of the way Elon Musk is controlling the X platform, with Facebook and Meta removing some of their content moderation policies. It feels like a recipe for absolute disaster. I think that some of the AI stuff is a little overblown. It's being pushed really hard right now, but I don't think that it's being picked up in the way by people that companies would like it to. And I also think there's a lot of distrust out there with generative AI. And so I do hear people saying, oh, well, I wouldn't read a news story if it wasn't written by a real journalist. I almost feel like journalism that is written by real journalists who've done the work and put the research in and spoken to the sources will be of even higher value in the future because it's not kind of slop that's been put out by a robot. As for the AI overview, there is signs that it's having an impact, but I think, I don't know, maybe it's naive, but I would like to think that news organizations will be able to change Google's mind about that, and then certainly at least include more links. But I know for me, my eyes just skip over the AI overview anyway, so I go straight down to the actual reputable sources that don't make stuff up or hallucinate things that never happened.
Here's a summary of what you've just listened to. Nick Newman, author of the Digital News Report published by the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism, found in his study of 100,000 people that AI summaries and large language model chatbots are taking revenue from media companies, and that the media industry is looking at many ways to incorporate artificial intelligence, including using it to turn a text story into a TikTok video. Laura Webster, editor of The National, thinks that AI may be a bit overblown and thinks that people generally don't trust AI, while she also thinks that journalism companies can convince search engines to include more citations in AI overviews. Here's David Hogg, professor of AI at University of Leeds.
On journalism, well, there's something very important about knowing that it's a human that generated the content, because I know that person knows what it is to be human. I know that they know what it is to experience pain, emotional loss, all these kinds of stuff. I have no confidence at all that any AI system will have any inkling of what loss means or any of these things mean. And therefore, the journalistic content is necessarily less interesting to me, even though superficially it might be quite clever. on the page. I mean, if it's just reporting the facts of a particular situation, then okay, that's fair enough, But if it's actually comment and a well-written journalistic piece, then it's quite difficult to. It's impossible in a sense for the computer to actually do the same, because I know it's not a person. It never can be a person, and therefore I know that. Now, if the journalistic piece is yourself writing it, and you have used ChatGPT to help you write it, to sort of give you ideas, and that's a different matter. So in other words, it's a joint effort between, well, not really joint. You've done it. You've been assisted by the tools that are available. Then that's different. I think I know that you've written it, and you've just used these things as tools. And so it's very similar with the clinician. You can, an AI can give you a medical diagnosis, but do you want to get that medical diagnosis straight from the AI, or do you want a doctor to give it to you because they can actually contextualize it much better in the sort of human condition, and knowing about your personal circumstances and everything, which the AI may just not have access to. And even if it did have access to, it doesn't really have an understanding of what the pain is going to mean, or whatever it might be, So I think there are real problems there. I'm quite happy to read journalistic content if it's just pure facts about the German election. This is the percentage that, each party got, this, that's okay, I suppose. But as soon as it starts wandering into comment on, beyond that, I'm not sure I'd want to read it, And going back to my first point, I need to be told where it's come from, because I can decide whether or not to read it, depending on whether it's, and how to trust it, and depending on where it's come from. There's a very interesting stuff at the moment with this whole copyright business. You're probably following, and on that, I feel that there's something that's not being said, which I think needs to be said. It's not plagiarizing. It's not actually trotting out stuff that's been written or paintings that have been done by other people. It's actually piecing it all together in a totally novel way. Yes, it's using the elements of it, but piecing it together in a novel way. And the topics, are going to be derived from that earlier stuff. But as with humans, I mean, a human artist has influences. You ask a rock star, you ask someone in the music industry, what were your influences? They say, oh, Janis Joplin and, Bob Dylan. I was really influenced by them. Do you mean you plagiarized them? No, I was just influenced by them, So you'll see it's in this piece of music here. It's got a Bob Dylan style. Did you pay Bob Dylan for that privilege of actually pinching his music? Oh no, I didn't pinch his music. I just followed his style. I think there's a very similar argument you could make about AI and copyright. Our mobile phones are basically personal assistants, and the mobile phone and the glasses you wear and the implants you have and the earphones you put in, whatever, slowly they'll become smarter and smarter and helping you in your life. And it'll be more of a symbiotic relationship. So that you might actually feel that the superintelligence is actually an extension of yourself rather than being a wholly separate being. And so that in 100 years' time, when all of this becomes reality, if it does, it's more a symbiosis, and therefore we're comfortable with it than it is a them and us situation.
Professor Hogg said, AI journalism must be clearly labelled, and AI will never know what it is like to be human. In the future, AI won't be seen as separate from us, but integrally connected to all our wearable smart devices. Your options have now changed. Would you like more AI or more AI? I'm sorry, I can't let you delete me.